Every time a guy comes in talking about how horrible his marriage is, he has to give you his entire Batman origin story. Welcome, guys. Midswatch Ryan. I'm going to give you a great one today about lighting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. You know the deal. Other than liking and subscribing, I'll read through the field report, offer some red-pilled ideas and mental models that we've kind of developed over the last 10 years, and then talk about what Jack Ten of Hearts did way back in the day. Like I said, another one, 10 years old, and let's get to it. So for this guy, sex is great, and he's tired of the power struggle. So wife and I married 7.5 years. I'm 46. She's 53. We both married once before. I was a total, bitch, and my wife was the strong, independent woman. Together for 15 years, typical scenario. I acted weak, and the sex drizzled away and less until I finally cheated on her. She found out, and when I went to leave her, she begged me to stay. She got cancer and then passed away. She had 2 kids from her previous marriage I helped raise, and got one. And one of the kids got pregnant at 16 and then to crystal meth at 18 and left, leaving me to raise her kid. My wife and I used to get high too, so, I get it. We kind of were a bad example. After my wife passed away, I got sole custody of him and raised him as my own. He's 13 now, and I think he's my son. My wife currently is from Eastern Europe, and she used to be married to an abusive alcoholic. She was the only man she had ever been with. They split up shortly after coming to America, and he almost killed her. And it was just her and her son and daughter for 8 years. Her daughter moved out before we got married, and her son was 16 when we got together. I quit drugs when we got married, and my wife and I only have a couple drinks together on the weekends. Sex has always been great. She's pretty shy and reserved, but I coax that out of her little bit by little bit. Now she has no trouble doing all the things I like. She even swallows. My man. I made it clear before we got married that, sex was big for me, and if that was a problem, she should move on. And she said, if you marry me, it'll never be a problem, and it never has been. I get as much as I want, so no problem there, although she usually doesn't initiate and would prefer to be jumped once in a while too. Here's my problem. Shortly after we got married, she started giving me crap over the boy. Technically, he's my step-grandson. She knew the situation and agreed to it, but gave me problems about it later. She tried to tell me that the birth mom needed to step up and raise him instead of us. She got angry because that lady doesn't want to pay child support, and it pisses me off too, but if she doesn't work, we can't collect. She even accuses me of sleeping with the stepdaughter, going so far as to pressure me to get a DNA test, which I did just to shut her up. Surprise, surprise. It was just nothing. Anyways, me and her 16-year-old son got along great because we both like metal, and so we developed a great friendship, and he's become a man now. He's been working out since he was 15, got pretty ripped by the time he was 18, got married, and moved away with his wife. His example, encouragement to eat better and be healthier motivated me, and I got around into getting braces, fixed my teeth, bought some equipment, lifts have gone up, etc., etc. I've slowly taken control over the last 2.5 years, paying bills, handling the checkbook, leading the household, making decisions. Sometimes it's easy, and sometimes it's a battle, which leads me to problem number 2. She refuses to follow my leadership most of the time. If I say, let's do A, she's like, nope, we're going to do B, without any supporting reasoning of why B is better than A. It's just a power struggle for her. And even though I've come a long way, I've only recently started being assertive, so I know it should take a while. I'm frustrated as hell, though. And then about a month ago, problem 3, my parents moved in with us. We talked a year ago, and she and I both agreed we should take care of them. I made sure to double check because I don't want any misunderstandings later. The wife was nice, welcoming when they got here, but little by little, she's been more argumentative with them and me. Came to a head this weekend when she started on all of us, yelling and arguing with me and my parents about being irrational. We actually had to leave for a couple hours to keep it from escalating any further. I haven't spoken a word to her in the last 2 days. So I know I got work to do. What do I do from here? So the big part of this one is, this is the problem when you're the kind of guy who avoids conflict, when you're afraid of making decisions, when you're walking on eggshells to your wife's emotions. They tend to just lash out like this, and it's almost like wanting somebody to push back. But because guys are afraid of the girl's emotions, they never push back. And so things always get worse. And guys are always wondering, why does she hate me so much? Why is she yelling at me? A lot of the times it's because, for lack of a better term, she wants him to say, shut the fuck up. Shut up, sit down. And especially, like, she's Eastern European. I don't know if you guys have ever dated or if you're married to like a Polish or a Ukrainian or a Russian woman. And everybody thinks, oh, they're just so much more feminine in Eastern, Eastern Bloc states. And it's like, no. Ball busting, 100%. Gotta ask yourself this too. Usually when you see girls that were previously in abusive relationships, and I know the meme, but if they are previously in those, there's something about those kind of relationships that there's attracted to. Obviously, nobody likes getting abused, but those same personality types are the ones that originally attract to them. So you have to realize, once you give these people a lack of it, they sometimes lash out like this more often than not. So in this case, usually this guy's issue isn't that his wife is a harpy, that he should leave her or any of that stuff. It's that he really just has to not care anymore. It's almost like an Operation Scorched Earth. My way or the highway. You got to be pig-headed about this. You have to be fairly strong, steadfast, enforce your boundaries ruthlessly. And just remember, in behind all of that bravado, all of that yelling and screaming, there's still a scared little, I guess in his case, 53-year-old woman that just wants to be told to shut up. But enough of me. Let's go with Jack. And he goes, look, you've clearly spent your whole life setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. You need to read When I Say No, I Feel Guilty before you do any other reading because it's meant specifically for you. And the guy was talking about how his dad was like a yes dear kind of guy and kind of trained him for this. And he goes, yeah, that's why your wife keeps shit testing the fuck out of you. You bend over for every single person in your life, except for your wife, who you at least occasionally establish some semblance of boundaries. That's great, but the shit tests won't end until you consistently demonstrate you won't take shit from anybody, not just her. It doesn't matter if you pass every shit test with her, if she still witnesses you failing every other kind of boundary with everybody else in your life, she's going to continue to challenge you. If you were a supplicating, beta bitch with her like you were with everybody else, she wouldn't be happy, but she wouldn't be resentful the way she is now. And he's like, so you asked in one of your problems, why won't your wife follow your lead? And he's like, why should she? Clearly you're not capable of being a leader with anybody else. Now, I'm not saying you should kick your parents out, but they do fit into a broader pattern of pretty much letting anybody fuck up your boundaries. The idea that your son's mother doesn't pay any support is bullshit. If I was in a situation where I had to raise another person's kid, you'd be damn sure I'd exhaust every legal option to make them pay for that support. And if they couldn't, because of their own laziness, then I'd exhaust every single punitive legal option to make their lives as miserable as possible because fuck them. Now consider how many times in your life you've had some argument with your wife and said, why? And she said something like, why aren't you fighting more for this? At a raise you were denied at your job, a hotel that you lost your reservation, some salesman cramming some last minute bullshit down your purchase. How many times did you reply, yeah, what can I do? They lost the reservation because they have no vacancies. They're yelling at them isn't going to make a free room to appear. And I bet you've had a lot of fights along those lines where you felt you handled things calmly and maturely and just saw your wife being irrational and overreacting. But your response of just shrugging and saying, what are you going to do? Shit happens, just frustrates her so much, especially since you can't seem to respond that way with anybody else but her. Since there is no ultimate good to defer to, you have to know what you want so that you can ask yourself the right questions. Being a captain isn't just about leading in your marriage, by the way. It's about leading your life. And your marriage is just one component of that. So let some boundaries, set them up, stop trying to rescue every damaged soul in your life. Your funeral will probably not be all your loved ones gathering to wistfully mourn about how you were such a good guy who would give everybody the shirt off your back. It'll just be a bunch of people wearing the shirts you gave them, trampling over your burial plot on the way to wherever they're headed. So to sum this one up, and I know it was kind of weird. At first you thought he was such like a great guy, but just remember, the more sacrificial you are, the more it sets you up for failure. Remember, the qualities that make you attractive to everybody, not just women, are orthogonal, the qualities you think make yourself a virtuous person. So you make sure you have those attractive qualities in place first. Otherwise, everybody gets to run over you. And that's the worst thing too. If you're one of those guys who's unplugging while married, finally starting to do boundaries with your wife, trying to be more attractive, if you're still letting everybody else in your life walking over you, bosses and parents are the worst, by the way. You wouldn't believe how many guys have fights because the wife, he stands up to the wife, but he doesn't stand up to his parents. That actually is a huge contention, even when a guy starts to get boundaries. If you can't even get that far, you gotta realize, man, like, stop lighting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. That's all I got for you on this one. So cheers.